So, introduction into plant biology, part 1. This video in this video we will talk about flowers and reproduction, fruits and seeds, embryonic development, growth and development of plants. So every flower, schematically here it's presented some general view of the flower. It has male and female parts of the flower. So male parts are here presented at the stamen. Stamen has anther with pollen inside, with grains of pollen inside, and it has filament keeping the anther. And the female part has pistil, and pistil consists of stigma. This is the upper part of the pistil, style, and ovary. Ovary may have a few eggs, few ovules, sometimes one. So, as I said, flowering plants reproduce sexually through a process called pollination. Flowers contain male sex organs called stamen and female sex organ called pistils. The anther is a part of the stamen and it contains pollen. This pollen needs to be moved to a part of the pistil called the stigma, so it is sticking to the stigma. Anthers and filaments belong to the male reproductive organ of the flowering plants. Stigma, style, and ovary, it is female reproductive organs in the flowering plants. So one single pollen grain contains 2 sperm cells, 2. After the occurrence of the pollination, pollen tube is formed, penetrating the style until it finds the ovary, and sperm cells, which are released from the pollen tube, fertilize egg cell as well as central cell in the embryonic sac. This process is called double fertilization. Okay, so we'll go next. Double fertilization here. Okay, so every grain grows inside, producing some tube, and through this tube, 2 sperm cells are moving inside the ovary. And what they are doing, inside the ovary we have egg cell. Egg cell, it is homozygote, has 1 set of chromosome, and then we have fertilization. Then one homozygote from grain, pollen grain, gets fertilized to produce the seed, I mean the embryo of the seed, and also we have triploid. Triploid of the central cell gets fused with another cell from pollen. So it is double. 2 sperm cells and 2 cells getting fertilized. Here and here. Okay, so here in a little bit more details. So the pollen grain adheres to stigma first. This is the first step. And pollen grain has 2 cells, a generative cell and a tube cell. Tube cell starts to grow and it is making a tube, and this tube grows to inside the ovary. Inside the ovary, penetrates the ovary like it is visible here. And inside the ovary we have ovules. If it is 1 seed, then 1 ovule, and then if it is many seeds, many ovules. But every pollen grain goes only and fertilizes 1 ovulus, only 1. So what we are getting, this homozygote egg getting fertilized with the pollen, with the male sex homozygote, and gets fertilized. And meanwhile, we have sperm gets fertilized with another cell, which is central cell, and then we are getting here tripod. It is not, this cell is necessary to form a source of energy for growing embryo after germination of the embryo. Okay, here it is some stages of the fruit development. We will not go much in details. So what we have to remember that pollination and fertilization, it's separate processes. Pollination, it is deposition of pollen grains on the stigma of the flower. It is a physical process. It is achieved by external pollinating agents like water, wind, insects, and animals. So first, pollen is coming and sticking to the stigma. Then pollination occurs. This fact of sticking occurs in early stages of sexual reproduction of plants, and of course can be self-pollination and cross-pollination. Two versions of the pollination. Then fertilization is next stage. So this pollen forms the tube, and then through the tube two sperm cells are moving to the ovary, here, and then they fertilize one ovulus, one seed. One seed is formed. So it is fertilization is next stage, and because we have two sperm cells, we can talk about double fertilization. Some plants like avocados have single ovary in the ovary, and these plants develop a single seed. But other plants like kiwi and tomato contain several ovules in the ovary of the flower. They produce multiple seeds per fruit. So, and in fruits with multiple seeds, syngamy occurs, so it is multiple pollen grains are involved in the fertilization of several ovules. So it's not one pollen fertilizes all the ovules, but several. So, and during fertilization, male and female gametes undergo fusion. They are fused to produce diploid zygote. So, sex cells have haploid, one set of chromosome, and they produce diploid zygote. So, syngamy is, there is other word syngamy, but syngamy it's the same like fertilization, self-fertilization and cross-fertilization. Okay, as it is quite obvious, plants can be self-pollinated or cross-pollinated. Self-pollination happens when a plant's own pollen fertilizes its own ovules. Cross-pollination happens when the wind and animals move pollen from one plant to another to fertilize the ovules on a different plants, on different plant. The advantage of cross-pollination is that it promotes genetic diversity, and but some plants have features that prevent self-pollination, such as pollen and ovules can develop different times. So first, pollen develops, and then the ovules develop different. So it has to be transferred to other plants with insects or wind or water. Okay, pollinators are normally insects like bees, butterflies, moths, and beetles that can carry pollen between the plants. Some birds, including hummingbirds, also play a part, but it's actually not much because hummingbirds are not sitting on the flower when they drink nectar. And even some bats and rodents can move pollen between the plants. It depends. And okay, and plants have can be colorful and smell well, and so to attract pollinators. Okay, here we have schematical presentation of self-pollination. So the grain of pollen are sticking to the stigma of the same flower. Okay. So we have here stigma, the upper part of the female organ, and we have anther, and pollen goes from anther to stigma. Some plants can go self-pollinated very easy. It's like peas and beans, very easy. But they also can be pollinated, cross-pollinated, self-pollinated or cross-pollinated. Okay, and cross-pollination, it is when a pollen is moved from one flower to another with pollinators, mostly with insects. Okay, here we have an example of that, how insects pollinate the flowers. We have this many anthers and one pistil, and so it's insects can move pollen from one flower to another. And mostly, like bees, they are genetically evolved so that they can transfer pollen from one flower to another. Okay, here an example of tomato flower, and how it is. So first we have fertilization of ovules, not one but many, inside the ovary here. And then in time what is happening, this style and stigma, they grow, and the style is producing the tomato itself, big size tomato, fruit of the tomato. And inside we have a number of seeds. Okay, here are some stages, how long it takes to develop a fruit. And again, we can look again in more details how this pollen grain grows. We have tube formation, and this tube is go to ovary, and then two sperm cells working. One cell fertilizes egg cell, and another fertilizes central cell. Double fertilization, double. And then what is happening then? The embryo develops, and we have development of the seed, and seed has embryo and some endosperm in the outside. Endosperm is a source of energy later on for embryo to grow and to develop. And we have fruit itself. Fruit itself, it is mostly to attract some animals, and then because of fruits, these seeds can be transferred, can be moved to some distant areas, and so it's evolutionarily helps to spread the plants to larger areas. Okay, we have development of the embryo. First stage is fertilization here, and next stage is embryogenesis. So after fertilization of two cells, egg cell and central cell, so what is forming? This embryo develops. Embryo develops and it grows, but it is not getting germinated. It is not developed to the plant. It is resting. It has to rest for a while. It has to rest. So fertilization is just one step, but then the seed waits some condition that of moisture and temperature good enough for the seed to germinate. Okay, we just repeat again that during fertilization, one of the sperm cells fuses with egg cell to produce a diploid zygote, and this develops into embryo. And another sperm cell fuses with the central cell to produce a triploid endosperm. Endosperm is around, this is the source of food, the source of energy. Okay, here in more details. So we have formation of zygote, fertilized egg, and then it is growing, it is start to multiply and forming an embryo. So, but embryo is not developing quick to mature plant, because it just getting to rest before it will fall or will be sown into the good condition in earth and good soil with moisture and temperature good enough to grow. So here schematically development of plant, of tomato plant. So what we have fruit, which is formed fruit. We have seeds inside. From seeds, seedlings develop if moisture and nutrients and sun are okay. Then this seedling develops to mature plant. Then we have stage of flowering, and then fertilization, and then we have fruit formation. Tomato are considered vegetables, and also cucumbers considered as vegetables, and pumpkin considered as vegetables. But actually, these are not vegetables. These are fruits. Fruits, by definition, a fruit defined as a plant, as a part of a plant that develops from flower's ovary, and it contains seeds. It contains seeds. Okay, and the tomato develops from ovary, and it contains seeds. So this is not a vegetable. This is a fruit. So, but there is confusion between sweet fruits like apples, like mango, and such fruits like cucumbers and tomatoes. So, and which are not sweet. So we have to define vegetables as edible part of the plant. It can be root, it can be tuber, it can be leaf, stem, but also can be seeds and flower, but not the fruit. Fruit is separate. Fruit is what is produced from ovary, but seeds can be vegetables. And flowers can be also vegetables, eatable vegetables. So vegetables are any edible part of a plant that is not the fruit. So fruit is separate, and other parts of the plant, which if they are eatable, they are vegetables. Okay, then we also have to mention asexual reproduction, and some which requires DNA only from one parent. So asexual reproduction creates offspring that are genetically identical to the parent. We can call this genetically identical offspring as clone. So clones don't have genetic diversity. This makes them more susceptible to a disease, but also it provides they can grow faster, they multiply faster than with seeds, than if it is they produce from sexual reproduction. So there is vegetative propagation and fragmentation as a part of the two parts of the asexual reproduction. Vegetative propagation does not require seeds or spores or grains, this pollen. Instead, offspring grow from a part of a parent plant. It can be root, it can be a stem, it can be leaf, part of the leaf, whatever. Okay, or it can be special mechanism like here. Some grass produces such offspring and spreading very quick, and it takes few days to develop a new plant. Or these new plants babies can develop in some parts of the leaf, and they also falling down and start to grow. Also, it takes not long to develop. No need to wait before seed will be formed. And fragmentation. Fragmentation also, so if it is natural, it can be naturally fragmented, like garlic. Pardon. Garlic can be naturally fragmented, or it can be cut to pieces, like some tubers. And in agriculture, cloning is a big part of the business, a big part of the arts. So, and then because some trees, for example, they cannot be grown from seeds, and to have high quality fruits, we have to use cloning, different technique of cloning. Avocado, for example, such a tree. What was going? First, we can cut some part of the donor plant, put it and wait before it will produce roots, and then if it is rooted, then we put it and grow further and further, so we can produce many identical clones of the same plant. This is one way. And another way, it is by grafting and budding. So we cut a piece from another plant and then grafting it to grafting it so that this new plant and a new clone will grow on the stem of other plant. But also cloning by tissue culture is very popular and gets very common, especially with all technique of laboratory development. So what is happening, so just leaves or roots are cut into pieces, and they immersed in sterile water, and then after a while they develop roots and can be grown to plants, and then these baby plants can be used to grow mature plants. Okay, what is interesting for me, it is that not only plants, I'm more interested in growing mushrooms, and mushrooms normally they have of course these spores which work like seeds, but actually much easier to grow mushrooms by cloning. So you take some pieces of mycelium and multiply and put to some medium with nutrients, and then this mycelium is growing, and then it can develop further, produce fruit bodies, so mushrooms themselves, and then this technique is very relatively easy, and I used this technique myself when I was growing oyster mushrooms. This is really easy and cheap, and so I believe that anybody can do it, even if they have apartment. So it does not need special equipment, I mean, of course it needs some skills, but it is quite fascinating. And because I was growing, I used maybe 6 square meters, and I was growing few kilo of these oyster mushrooms per day, 2-3 kilo, and it was enough for my own consumption. So, and not to mention that this used mycelium can be food for chicken, can be food for some animals, or also can be a fertilizer. Okay, that's all. I am not a kind of biologist, so it's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit out of my interest. But nevertheless, I can find something important for myself, like growing mushrooms, and maybe in time growing some seeds, growing some plants also. Because I was doing farming in Thailand. We have 10-hectare farming land. We were growing cash crops, and of course this is quite already established business, and not much science inside, but yet it is useful to know what are you doing. So science has always help, and ignorance is deadly, and ignorance is not a way to earn money. Okay, that's all. Thank you for your time. Original presentation, read the original presentation, and use internet to learn more about the subject.